It's the tea with Nikkolayla again. Ting, ting, ting. Okay, so I am so glad you came to my show. I'm so grateful for you. So, anyway, this is like a face to face. This is like a branch off from my show because I did some videos when I first started YouTube, and I am incorporating them in my love, joy, compassion, passion, kindness show videos right now because I look at my videos and actually there's some personal aspects about the videos that I actually did originally when I first started YouTube. I haven't been on here that long. However, it's just, now it's like I'm looking back and I have some personal stories that actually help me um, change and transform into actually being able to express more of my passion, love for myself, and love for others, kindness, joy, and all the attributes and virtues that I express on my show when I'm interviewing other guests, and also, talking about certain things that incorporate those aspects that we all live with, but we don't consistently talk about. Like, it's not a common thing for people like, I'm being so compassionate, but we just naturally do it because that's just part of who we are. So anyway, there's a portion of my video where I'm sharing some stories, and I'm expressing love for myself, and moving through certain things in my life for, as far as joy is concerned, and finding joy in some of the things that might be uncomfortable in my life that I'm having. Um, I don't completely elaborate on them, but I do have expressions of some of my experiences because I've had some stories, and I would call them more spiritual stories because to me it's like inspiration has the word spirit in it. And so when you're living life and sometimes you're doing things and you're not really thinking about those things and you're enjoying yourself, you're probably living by inspiration, and you just don't, you just didn't put the word to it. But it's like bringing into account your awareness that you're actually living in a place of inspiration and joy when you can actually look at the other side of the coin, even though the experience that you might have might be a little bit difficult or uncomfortable or whatever you're encountering, because there's two sides of your experience. And when I started off those videos, I was talking about the vortex. So you'll hear that word vortex, and I kind of touch on it. You can check out my other videos. It's under Nikkolayla, but I'm gonna choose some of them and put them on these, intertangle them into my What's the Tea with Nikkolayla, because I feel like they're really important because I find joy in some of the personal experiences that I have on the other side. And in everyone's life, you don't just have compassion, and it's unfortunate that we're not at a place that we're not constantly living in compassion and joy and all utterance of greatness, because there's times when things are difficult in life and things are hard, and it's like, I don't live like that either. I live in the experience that sometimes things don't feel so great, but I know and I feel that there's a place that eventually there can come a time. Don't know when that's going to happen. Well, there can come a time when you get to a place where nothing bothers you and you actually have the ability, no matter what is happening. It could be something so difficult, but you still have love in your heart. You still have compassion in your heart. You can have the joy in your heart. You can move on inspiration in that space, and because everybody can change and shift a situation. Like I have one video with Renee, and she's talking about unconditional love and how she actually assisted someone else in shifting their consciousness. And I think that is so amazing. So even when she was having a difficult time, she had the ability to help someone, and she wasn't even attempting to make anything. She didn't do anything that's extreme, but in the outcome of it, it did seem so huge because it changed the perspective of the person, and they were apologetic for their behavior. It made them go into themselves, and then they had love for themselves. And I think that is so beautiful, because me and other people, oh, I have to share this one story before I kick in on the face-to-face with Nikkolayla portion, the other portion of it. I ended up going to Trader Joe's, and I'm picking out, like, I didn't get the basket because I'm like, I have a bag, I'm just going to put it in the bag. Well, I'm standing there and I'm putting my stuff in, thinking I'm picking up the pickles, and it's kind of like, okay, it's time for you to go home. It's really time, and I can feel it. It's like, it's time for you to go home. You've done all that you need to do for the day. You've made all the errands. It's time to go home, okay? So I'm going there and I'm putting the pickles in the bag. Well, I'm thinking I'm putting it in the bag, and it drops and it slides right off the bag onto the floor, and you hear this crack. And I was like, now, honestly, I have to tell you, this was my honest, true feeling about my experience, was that I didn't feel judging of myself. I did look around and was like, oh my God, I just dropped that. And then I felt like, oh, wow, I just dropped that. But I didn't feel bad. And I know people but I did say sorry for what happened. And there's this beautiful man, I'm not going to give his name. He's so, so beautiful. I think I've talked about him on another video. Oh my God, he's so precious. He was like, it is okay. You're okay. Everything. I mean, he was just, and I thought to myself, how poignant it is that somebody else is always there to show you some love, even when there is a time that it could possibly be uncomfortable for you, or it could possibly be a little bit difficult for you. There's always someone there. There's always someone there that you can even call or touch base with or connect with, a family member or a friend, so you can actually feel that you are loved. If you haven't found it in yourself, know that there's always someone there that really loves you. I love you. I'm going to tell you right now, I love you. It's simple. I love you even though I don't know you. We all come from a beautiful place of love. So since we come from a beautiful place of love, I have the ability to tell you that I love you. So go out, love yourself, and enjoy this video. And I thank you for coming and watching What's the Tea with Nikkolayla. See you soon.
So, hello everyone. It's good to see you again. I am so grateful to be here with you, and it's another new day. So, quite honestly, there's been a lot that's happened in my life. However, still processing through some stuff. So, I will probably be touching on it in another video as time goes on. However, I know that things are good. Even though I've had experiences where I haven't been in my vortex. However, I am creating. One of the things that I'm doing, there was a young lady, her name is Aluna Ash, and I listen to her videos every once in a while. And and I'm going to backtrack just here for a minute, because quite honestly, I wasn't planning on, I don't have any specific things planned on what I'm talking about today. It's another spontaneous day. I don't have anything set because I just don't have any particular things set. However, this young lady, Aluna Ash, was touching on how she actually manifests. And she was talking about how she manifests a car, and she calls it manifest. I call it creating, because we're creators. Um, she's talked about, like, I think she says she sets her, it's kind of like, she's not setting an intent, but she's setting her expression of creating right before she goes to sleep. So it's kind of like she is setting that mindset before she falls asleep. And actually, that's really, really a good idea. However, I'm still grasping the creation experience for myself. I'm doing that because it's kind of like, it's like you're in it. And so when you're in it, you got to be on the outside of it, but then you have to analyze or watch what happens in the after effects. And then it's kind of like, then you got to break it down. And I know that sounds kind of like, um, kind of sounds maybe like programming and step by step, because when the creation occurs, it happens and you're in it and you're experiencing it and it's like, wow, whoa, whoa. But you don't know exactly, okay, so how can I say this? Because I know when I first started my video, it was like, I want to master that. And that is exactly why I'm doing these videos, is so I can master being in the vortex of balance. However, I'm going to put it out there. So this is something that I do, is that I actually put out in the vortex. I actually speak. So it is important that you speak those things as though they were, or speak the will of what is to occur. So speaking, it's like the word is the will, and that actually connects into creating. Now, I don't have all the details of how that works or what, because I'm still getting it myself. I'm still in the process, just like everybody else. It's like you could have a dream about a car or whatever, or something that you wanted. You like, I've been wanting that. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to tell a story. And this is coming up right now. So I remember a long time ago when I was younger, I actually was saving for a car, and I actually knew the car that I wanted. So I'm giving bits and pieces because this is probably going to help me if I watch my own video again, just to kind of make sense of how this whole manifestation process works. Because like I said, I'm in it like you. I'm creating and being a master creator. So I remember wanting a car. And I remember walking to work every day because I was saving for my car. Now, work wasn't that far, but it wasn't close either. I could have caught the bus to work, and I was like, no, I'm going to save my $1.70 or whatever the price of getting on the bus was back then, to put it towards my car. And I stayed steadfast regarding my car. Now, one of the things that I did notice is that the car would show up. I would be walking to work and the car that I wanted showed up. And back then, I had no clue that I was creating back then. I've created so many different things and put them in my vortex, good and not so good. And I've watched them come to life. I've said things that I wanted to have in my life, and they occurred. But back then, I had no clue what I was doing. Now that I'm consciously aware of being a creator and knowing that, I look back at my experiences in the past and I'm going, oh my God, back then I was creating that. I was saying that. I was doing that. So that means that you can create your fears, you can create your joys, you can create anything you want on the face of this planet. You can bring it into into your experience, into your own world, whatever you want. However, part of it, and this is something that Abraham Hicks talks about, you have to put it into your vortex. Now, you have to actually feel what it is. You have to feel it. And so, what does it feel like to be in a space of joyful happiness with friends and family? Or, say, for instance, you want a new job, or you want to do something else. You have to feel it and experience it. So, that means that you plant. It's like you're planting your seeds inside the ground, and you await for them to flourish and grow into a beautiful garden that you've put seeds in, because you're waiting for it to grow. But at the same time, you don't sit there and stare at it and go, I'm waiting for it to come up. It's not up yet. Oh my God, when is it going to come up? And you keep checking it every second, let's say. Don't do that. Let it go. Let it go. So some things have happened in my life that have been, interesting to me, and I'm learning from them. And, I'll probably touch on them later on. But right now, I'm still in the process of my garden, um, putting the seeds in my garden. And I've already put a lot of seeds in my garden. So one of the things that I remember Abraham Hicks saying is that you had put thousands and thousands and millions and billions and quadrillions of things in your vortex already before you even got here on this planet. So it's like, ooh, what did I create that I didn't know that I created and I put away? So it's kind of like, this is fun. One of the things I remember that I created, okay, so I'm going to share a story. This is, it's an interesting story because that's how I got into my own space. So I was living with my stepdad at a time, and I had moved out into a new city. And I was with my dad for probably about a year, like my stepdad for about a year. And while I was living with him, there was a shift and change because I would actually always take affirmation, things of affirmation, because I had taken a class to create affirmations. Because affirmations shift your consciousness. And that's a one way for it to be, or you have a revelation. And I always would say, you have a choice. It's like either you have a revelation. It's like a revelation is like that that little light bulb that comes off, ding, and it's like, oh, I've got an idea. Something's come to you. That's your vortex. That's your higher self actually giving you an idea. And then you take off, and then you go have some fun. So I did my affirmations. I have a joyful living space. And I actually would do that affirmation. I believe I did that affirmation every single day. Now, that was my, I just like I said, don't watch it grow, but I was saying that to shift my consciousness, because in the space that I was living in wasn't something that I normally would choose for myself. However, it was what I needed to have, and also to expand from, to teach me that I had the ability to create whatever I wanted in my life. So I stayed steadfast, and I continued on my path and saying the affirmation, I have a joyful living space. And as time went on, I remember my dad saying to me, he goes, save your money. And I said to myself, because I can hear when spirit is speaking to me, and that I chose that as a sign for spirit speaking to me, save my money. But he didn't say why or how. And that gave me a light bulb revelation moment that it was time for me to move. So I went on a track, and I actually was going to be vacationing with my family to Florida, and to just take a family reunion trip. So I had set money aside for that. And I actually ended up setting money aside for my moving out expenses. And I plugged away and prepared and did whatever I needed to do as I, worked at the job that I was working at. And so where I was in my creation experience is that I was plugging away, putting money away to have my new place. But there was one thing that I didn't do, and I didn't feel led to do this because I just didn't feel led to. I didn't tell my dad what I was doing. I didn't tell him because that's not what he mentioned to me. He just said, save my money. He didn't say, use it for this or use it for that. I just had my own revelation idea and said, this is what I'm going to use it for. Excuse me. So what I did is, after I came back from my trip, I came back to look for a place because you got to take an action. So, and I had taken several actions. So one step at a time took me to the next action. And I was looking for places that I wanted to live and like, okay, maybe I could look here or live here. And I was on the computer just checking places out. And I look at the consistency of because I've done this whole creation thing before, but each time it gets a little different. You can change it up, which means that it can be easier. So I'm on my road to the next kind of phase, but it's kind of like I'm at a crossroad. So that's why I'm kind of talking like this, but I have to go back and talk about an experience that I realize and I'm aware of and conscious of and watch the manifestation of creation occur. And so when I looked for a place, I remember going to this apartment house. And when I went to this apartment house, because I was looking at how much how much I made and how much I was going to, how much it was to afford the space and how much I was making at work, and, my living expenses. I did a list of my living expenses of what it would cost to live alone. And so once I actually did that, I figured, well, this particular apartment house. Now I had seen some townhouses as well, and I called to find out what the pricing was for them. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that because, I don't want to overextend myself. I want to be at a place of balance, and I also want to save some money. And it was so interesting. And then there's another portion of this. I had this igniting thing inside of me that I knew exactly what time it was for me to leave my dad's house. I knew that in the month of October was my month that it was time for me to leave my dad's house. There was nothing inside of me that was saying, no, that is not possible, or no, that can't be. It was like nudging at me, and I could feel it, and I knew it, and I was guided by it. And so I went on my trip, came back. My trip was in August. I came back from the trip, and, within between that month or so, I was looking for places to live. But meanwhile, like I said, I didn't tell my dad because I didn't feel led to tell my dad. So when I came out back to where I live, I went to look for a place, and I went to apartment houses, or apartment house. And I went in there and I asked the lady, could I see a place? And she said, well, nothing's going to be available until November. And I went back to my car and I said, I'm getting that it's time for me to move right now. Like, I'm not waiting for it. November is not the month that I'm supposed to be moving. I have to move out of my dad's house by October. Now, isn't it interesting? There's another little secret in there. Everything happens at the right time. There is nothing that happens in your life that is out of order, not unless, if you're being guided, it's at the right time. So I'm like, my time is October. I'm not getting anything else but October. So as I sat in the car, I was like, it's so interesting because the apartment houses are right in the same complex as the townhouses are. They're in two different separate spots. And I'm going, this is amazing that this would be like this. But I said, I sat in my car for a while and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go over there and check it out and see, just because I'm just like, let's push the envelope. I'm right here. Let's go check it out. And so I went into the leasing office and I asked her some questions about what would the price be for moving into one of the townhouses. She explained she told me what it was. And then I asked, "Can I see a can I see your a space?" And she was like, "Sure." And she said, "Use your imagination." Now, me and her were so engulfed in conversation, it had nothing to do with moving into the space that I moved into. It was just so amazing. And so the next thing I know, now she's showing me the place. I am so disillusioned and I'm so enraptured in the conversation that we're having. I don't even pay attention to the space. And I'm going, and I looked back and I'm going, I didn't even pay attention to the space. I was so, we were such in great conversation that I didn't even pay attention to it. Strange, but that's just the way it happened. And I remember when I went into that office, that management space with her, and one of the things she said to what one of the things I heard was my higher self saying, "This is where you're gonna live. This is where you're gonna live." And I said, "Okay, I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know, because, you know, stuff in my background might not look so wonderful, credit's not that great." It's like, okay. So this is like a story. To me, it's a creation story because there's nothing that you cannot have. There's nothing that you cannot do. And while I'm saying this to you, I'm saying it to myself. There's nothing that you cannot create that you desire, that you have inside of you. Plant the seeds and they will grow into a wonderful, beautiful garden of your choice, of your liking. And stay in that place of joy. Some things have happened to me recently in my personal life, and I probably will divulge them in the near future. Right now is not the time because there's still some things changing. However, I look forward to the joy because I am transforming. Transformers more than meets the eye, right? So I am transforming, and it is a fun, fun ride. And I'm loving more of myself. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to share some of myself with you. I'm so grateful that I'm here on this planet with you on Mother Earth, loving, living, having the ability to feel joy. And don't get me wrong, every day is a transformation and a change, and every day is not like, oh, peach king. However, I take those moments where I have to step back and sit back and look at my own experience and say, you're doing pretty good. Everybody has their moments where they're not, like everything's like, because you're processing. Sometimes you're processing. And I have my moments where I'm not, it's not that I'm not happy, but we're emotional expressions. And that's one of the things that we have to master, our emotions. Most recently, I had an experience where I could have shared tears. I had none to share. Not that I'm hardened by anything, it's just that I didn't have any tears. I just have love. And like I said, I will share the story later on as it continues to process through because I'm still processing through it and I'm not ready to share it yet. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for what doesn't happen that I would say it's not the way that it's supposed to look, right? Maybe not. But that's okay because it's still good. And so you have the opportunity when something is not seeming like it's going your way or is something that you could be sad about or unhappy. I say, feel those things. Go ahead and feel what you're feeling because it's okay. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to, have whatever experience you're having. Because what we're all going through and what's happening to people as a whole is that you're processing through emotions and life. And no one said everything was just as easy as, like just so simple. However, at the same time, it can be to some degree, but you still have emotions that you need to process through. And so I encourage you to process through your emotions, feel your way through, love yourself as you go, and come back to a place of joy. Take every experience that you have and see the good in it. And if you see the good in it, if you can see a glimmer of light within what you're experiencing, even though it can look like you're in a place of such pain and dark, there is something good that you're receiving out of it. Because if you had not gone through that experience, you wouldn't be able to look at it on the other side and see something else positive. What's coming to me right now is that comedians. I think last week I was watching comedians. And I know that some comedians have deep, dark pasts that are so painful, and all they have left to do is laugh. Now, and there's some comedians that have, like Robin Williams, killed themselves. Isn't it interesting that it's a possibility that you don't have to do that or hurt yourself in any way, shape, or form? That you can make people laugh, but inside laugh as well. It's like, just let it go. Let it go. Because when you let it go and you let go of the pain and the hurt of something that you've been holding on to, because remember, that's baggage. If you're holding on to something, remember I talked about my dad with the hands? If you're holding on to something, it's holding on to you too. So the important thing is to let it go. And be love to yourself and love to others if you possibly can, because it'll free you and actually you become lighter and you're not so heavy and weighed down by certain things that you're holding on to. Just let them go. Let them go. And I know that's easier said than done. Process through your stuff. You can do it. I believe in you. I trust that you can do it because you're made of the same stuff I am. And I've done it. I've done it. So I wish you all well. Joy, 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 joy to you, your loved ones. Peace, honor, grace, joy, all the good things that life has to give. I say stay in them, stay filled, stay in joy the best way you can, and still process through your stuff, loving more of you. And then that's another thing. When you do go through the painful places that you're experiencing, know on the other end, you're loving yourself more because you got through and you're still here and you're important and you're loved. So be well. Thank you so much. And I love you. Bye-bye for now.